Hello and welcome back to Robot Butt Recommends with me, Tim. So, we are here for another week, and this is a week where we will start to see new movies released in theaters again. At least as of today, that is the plan. Unhinged is being released Friday next week. Finally, The New Mutants is coming out after delaying it how many times. Now they finally stick to a release date. But movie studios and theaters in particular are very anxious to get those blockbusters going again. Probably not a great idea considering cases are still going up in the country, but what are you going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is suggest some blockbusters from years past that you can watch from the safety of your own home instead of paying $20 for stale popcorn by going out to the theater. And the one I wanted to start with today is Batman. And when I say Batman, I am specifically referring to the 1989 Tim Burton film with Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and that fantastic Danny Elfman score. And it really is an interesting blockbuster to take a look at, especially now, in 2020, because we are living in an era where superhero movies are the most guaranteed kind of moneymaker, which was very much not the case when Batman came out. Superhero movies were, or comic book movies in particular, were something that only kids would go see. You had Superman, that was a big hit prior, but that didn't launch anything, and the sequels got progressively worse and less successful, so it wasn't something that studios were really looking to dig their heels and dig their teeth into. But Batman really changed that in 1989, and not only did it kind of set the stage for the comic book movies that we see today, but it really was, a tipping point in Hollywood and studio films in terms of event films. Because you did have your big things like Star Wars, where it spawned a bunch of merchandise and stuff like that, but it was not planned. Star Wars was, a happy little accident, and it just turned out to become this big juggernaut of a film property. Batman was different. Like, from the get-go, they brought, especially once they got Jack Nicholson, which, just a moment on that, Warner Brothers was putting all the money to make this a big event and get everyone interested into it. You had toys, you had freaking Prince putting out an album for the movie, which the songs really aren't even in the movie. Like, you hear a small piece of it at one point, but he still did it. They still got Prince to record a whole album for a movie that wasn't even in the movie. And it really was, you really didn't see that a lot at the time. Now it's commonplace with, studios wanting franchises and tentpoles, but that was unique and something kind of mind-blowing at the time. And then the movie itself is really cool. It is a Batman movie. It is a superhero movie. The action is kind of quaint by today's standards in some ways, and in some cases it's actually pretty bad. But it's also got an absurdist kind of pyrotechnics wet dream feel to a lot of it. A lot of explosions, a lot of actual stunt work, and even dipping into prop comedy, since you're dealing with the Joker, which gives it a bit different flavor from what we're used to today, but is still really fun to watch. And it does some interesting things, especially in retrospect, from what we would expect from a superhero movie. For starters, it is not a Batman origin story, even though this is like the first really major Batman movie that studios put out. Batman is already fairly well established in Gotham in the movie, so, he's a known entity. Instead, what this movie really is an origin for the Joker. And while Batman is the name of the movie, this really is the Joker story, and that partly has to do with the fact that Jack Nicholson played the Joker. They got a major get by, Jack Nicholson wanting to do this. He was very into the idea of being the Joker, and he got one hell of a sweetheart deal for doing it, and it's worth every penny. He hams it up in the best way. He is clearly having a blast playing this character. And so he really sucks up all of the oxygen in the movie. So even though Batman is the title character and our hero, he comes across as almost secondary to Jack Nicholson's Joker, which gives the movie an interesting feel. And that's not to downplay Batman himself. Michael Keaton is a really good Batman Bruce Wayne, and he does something that has been lost with like the Christian Bale Batmans and everything, where it is visibly apparent that Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is not comfortable being Bruce Wayne. He's Batman, and Michael Keaton is kind of the mask he puts on, and he does a really good job of taking that concept, which has been a part of the character, especially in the comics, for a long time, but giving it a really clear visual component in his performance. Like I said, the fight scenes are not super great, partially because the bat suit was so stiff that Keaton and even the stuntmen could not do much with it, but it is still a very fun flavor of comic book movie. And on top of that, you have Tim Burton, who is really, at this point, it's the beginning of his career where he is really just making a name for himself. The Gotham of this movie is just, 1940s noir turned up to 11. Even just the production set design feels like a living cartoon. And I mentioned Danny Elfman's kick-ass score. That just kind of feeds on top of it, where it's this really, when we look at the Marvel movies today, there's this very clean, polished feel to them. And that can be really entertaining and fun. I love the Marvel movies, but the Burton Batman movie, specifically this first one, has just this really unique, completely different feel to it. And it's an aesthetic that then got borrowed for Batman the Animated Series, which is, held up as one of the better, kids cartoons to come out of the 90s, and it's very good in its own right. But it all stems from that kind of aesthetic that Burton laid down, which was a big gamble at the time. He had, Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure behind him, and they were hits, but he was still a relatively unknown entity for Hollywood at that time. So the fact that all of this kind of came together and created this weird, memorable, huge blockbuster movie is incredible. As far as if it's better than Batman Returns, I don't know. I really don't know where I stand on them at this point. Batman Returns is very good in its own right, but thank you for bringing it up, Fabs. Batman Returns is really good in its own right, but and it definitely doubles down on just like the weirdness of Burton's first Batman, but there's something special about the first one because it is what kicks everything off. And as much as I love Danny DeVito, Jack Nicholson just really diving into the character of the Joker and kind of knocking the door down where like you can have this larger than life absolute movie star of an actor jump into a comic book superhero movie. But yeah, so Batman, it is on HBO Max, and you can get it normal video rentals online and everything. But yeah, Batman, 1989, pre-Nolan gridifying everything. But rest of this month, I'm going to focus on blockbusters of years past. So come back on Thursday for something else. We will talk to you later.